So on the weekly series that you do, how do you keep up with the schedule?
Oh, okay. So he's asking how we keep up on the schedule for the Batman Weekly book, which is called Batman Eternal.
Right.
We do it by having tons of people work on it. There's 4 writers, 5 technically, because Scott Snyder is kind of the overhead guy, and then there's 2 editors at least, sometimes 3, and then there's lots of artists rotating in. But basically the writers have to talk to each other all the time. So we are on email or on the phone with each other. Like I talk to my co-writers of Batman Eternal way more than I talk to my mom, which is kind of sad. But yeah, we switch the scripts off. So we usually do 3 on, 1 on, and then one guy writes 3, and then another writer takes another 3. Then and then we somehow we ended up with 52 issues worth of Batman comics out of it.
So it's a follow-up question. It's all right. So when you're determining the story, when you sit down and you think about the 52 issues that you're going to do you know how it's going to end 52 weeks ago, or do you do it as you go along?
Oh, I mean, that would be amazing if we could do it as we went along. But no, we planned it out. James Tynion and Scott Snyder sat down and plotted out a skeleton for us of all 52 issues. They broke them into 3 segments. It was kind of like the intro, the rising action, and the conclusion. And so each issue was basically broke down. And then we had a big meeting and we talked about it for 3 days straight. So that we knew even more stuff that was going to happen. So we followed a skeleton the whole way through. We did change the ending. By the time we got to issue 25, we realized the ending, there's somebody, like another title kind of stole our thunder sort of thing. So we're like, we had to come up with a new way to do it. And so we did change it on the fly while we went, but I wish you could just wing it, but you can't. You have to have it pretty well figured out.
Right. So I'm old enough to remember the Action Comics Weekly way back.
Sure.
I think it was the 90s.
Yeah.
And so when this came out, I was a little dubious, but I'm pleasantly surprised. It's been great.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions for any of the people up here, or anything about DC Comics?
With Flash and Arrow being on a weekly series, how do you guys feel the characters are translating?
You work on Flash, but how do you feel about it?
Are they in a weekly series? You mean like a TV
on
show?
TV, yeah.
It's great for sales. Actually, what's interesting about the Flash show is there's certain elements that they changed that the whole time I was just, mind you, I'll be honest, I've only seen the first episode. But there were certain elements where I thought, oh, that's an interesting direction, because when we started the New 52, it was kind of a re-envisioning of the characters. So seeing that felt like a different interpretation. For me, it's exciting. I don't know, did you like it?
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah? Do you watch both? Do you watch all of them?
Yep.
Good.
The only thing I always think of is, as long as it doesn't get to the weird thing where you have to follow the TV show, because sometimes there's that thing, well, we have to all look the same so people recognize it, but like the TV show costume looks great on TV, but it looked like crap in a comic book.
Well, what's funny is I drew a cover for the Flash TV show, and when I was drawing it, it's not very fun to draw as a comic. In real life, it looks great, but those are certain things that just don't translate. Sometimes it works the other way around, right?
I think Arrow's like that too, where it looks cool on TV, but in the comic it needs to look, more. It would look. Then people always like, Superman's shorts look stupid on TV, but they look great in a comic book because they help break up the design. So
I think it's also something about what the actor can handle, because I remember when I was working on Green Arrow, it was right when they were developing the TV show, and there was a feeling in the office that the actor wasn't going to want to wear, especially all those big canisters at his hips, and that big boxy thing, his arrows. Okay, it made sense, he's got a lot of trick arrows, but, it just didn't have a lot of stealth to it and didn't have a good silhouette. And they've been just shedding pieces of his costume, which really makes sense.
This is from Francis. So you're obviously a young man. when you started working on Flash, did you go back and look at the long history of the Flash character?
Yeah, well, I mean, probably a lot older than you think I am. It's the Asian blood.
They're like vampires that way.
Yeah, I'll look like this until I'm 60, and at 61 I'll look 100. No, actually, I was a longtime Flash fan, so I was a big fan of Mike Ringo and Mark Waid's run. So that was kind of my jumping off point. And when I started writing the book, I actually read all the Showcase Golden Age books, just because I wanted to get that similar sense of wonderment, but also in a modern way, right?
Right.
And that's what I kind of tried to infuse in the book, is a sense of fun. You know, I remember reading this one issue, and it was an issue that made me go, you know, I can do something that scientifically kind of makes no sense, but it would work as a comic book. I think there was this guy that had a gun that slowed the Flash down every time he ran towards him. So as he started walking backwards, he's like, wait a second, I'm speeding back up. So it's not a radius thing, which is what science would dictate, but it's a running backwards thing. So he ran backwards, made a U-turn, and ran at the bad guy backwards. That made no sense, but it was awesome. So what I started doing was, I'm like, hey, I think I could do stuff like that, but you know, today's readers are a lot more savvy. So what I did was, I was reading a lot of science magazines and science articles, and I would extrapolate some theoretical science that isn't happening yet. And I thought, okay, well, what would happen if that theory is applied and has been working for at least the last couple of years?
Right.
So those were the things that I found with the Golden Age books. It was very sci-fi, because especially around that time, there was a lot of things that we didn't know.
Right.
And so I tried to infuse that sort of, I guess, amazement in a modern way.
Right. So how much artistic freedom does DC give you?
Well, when we started the New 52, you know, because I write and draw my own book, I had a lot of freedom in that sense. But in terms of experimentation, when we were working on the covers, they wanted a very traditional superhero type of cover. And at the time, I remember I did some covers that were kind of more iconic and silhouettes, something that was more graphic, and they canned it, they shelved it. And I thought it was really funny when we had a summit a few months later and they wanted more of those type of covers.
Right.
And what's funny is now that I'm on Detective, which is, you know, arguably a bigger book because it has Batman in it,
Right.
I've had more artistic freedom in the sense that, you know, there's other Batman books. Right? So whereas with the Flash, they wanted it to be the iconic version of that, whereas with Batman, I'm kind of free to be more experimental because there's the Greg Capullo, Scott Snyder Batman, there's the Tim Seeley, James Tynion Batman, and then there's my Batman.
Right.
So, yeah.
So there's just a comment. And I've been collecting comics since 1968.
Wow.
And you know, on and off, right?
Yeah.
But the New 52 brought me back to comics. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
great.
Thank you.
I have a question for Tim. And then this is in reference to the worst movie ever made, Batman. Is it Batman Robin?
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger? What was your reaction to the costume design?
Batman 4, or is it?
Yeah, Batman 4.
Batman and Robin.
With the nipples.
I don't know. Those movies.
Both of the Schumacher films, I think, had sort of the same costume design.
Well, no, because the fourth one, he got the silver one.
Oh, he had the silver. That's good.
Yeah.
He looked like sort of one of those spin-off action
Yeah.
movies, you know. Or, yeah.
I mean, it just seemed to me like when those movies were coming out, like they were just daring you to like them. Like I tried to enjoy this film, but then I rewatched Batman Forever the other day. And that's a stink.
Oh,
that's a
both of those are.
Yeah, they're terrible.
On Netflix. They're on Netflix.
Yeah, they're on Netflix.
Absolutely.
So
I tried to watch them.
Yeah.
I could not get through them.
But I mean, on the other side, I do think that, like with the DC characters especially, they have so much history, they've been around for so long. that you can have a huge embarrassing turd and the character still recovers, and you know the power of the character and the design, and like Batman is arguably more popular than he's ever been right now, you know, and so he clearly survived the silver nipple suit.
This is for Mr. Manapul. How do you see the character for Anarchy developing through the stories, and how much of a headache is it going to be for Batman?
How much of a what, sorry?
Of a headache, you know.
I feel like I can't say anything without revealing the story.
In general?
Well, in general, my approach to Anarchy is more about the movie, right? It's more about the symbolism of what he does and what it stands for.
Okay.
But that's how it starts. Once the way it ends, it actually becomes more personal story to the person behind the mask, right? And that part, I'm very, very curious about, you know, because the ideology of an anarchist is a certain way, and the thing that makes it personal kind of makes it a bit of a, I don't want to say anything. I mean, it'll be good. Batman fights them, and you know, I mean, for me, the important part that was brought to question in the book is Gotham is a city that's kind of dictated who or what people were, you know, based on their environment and based on what's available to them. And Anarchy raised a question to the citizens of Gotham, which is, look, if I erased your past, who would you be tomorrow? Right? And it's a very dangerous question to ask a city like Gotham, right? So that's kind of what Batman has to deal with.
That's awesome. I just recently started picking up like comic books, and your comic book was actually the first comic book that I picked up. Pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah, Green Arrow, sorry, Iron Fist. Iron Fist.
Iron Fist. Yeah.
I do that.
Thank God. All right. Going back to what you said about the movie, do writing comics and drawing comics like paint your sort of make you biased when you watch the movies? Like, did you watch Dark Knight Rises and go like, oh no, Bane, what have they done to you? You know, it makes you best, Darth Vader or something. You know, something like that.
I mean, just as much as it does you, I imagine. You know, like I know when you're doing a comic book that has lots of translations to other media, you're gonna pick up things that you like from some and ignore things from ones you hated. So I mean, probably just the same way that it colors your impressions of it. But I definitely know that when we're working on Batman Eternal, we know we're not making a Batman movie. And I know I don't want to make a Batman movie, you know, with the comic. I want it to be a great Batman comic. So I don't try to be Christopher Nolan because he's doing a different thing than I am. Yeah.
Is there anything you can tell us about Convergence?
I mean, none of us are working on it, right?
Convergence. I'm doing a cover. Here's the best part about it. When they asked me to do a cover and they were trying to explain to me what it was, because you know they'll tell you, okay, this cover's about this and that. They said pick any two characters from in-world and out-world. I'm like, you mean in Earth and one from outer space? And they're like, no, different timelines. And I said, okay, you mean like I would draw a cover with two different Aquamans in it? And they're like, no, two different characters, but from separate universes. I'm like, so I thought of the most ridiculous thing ever. I said, you know, I've never drawn Aquaman. Can I draw Aquaman? They said, sure. And I said, I've never drawn Kamandi. Can I draw Kamandi? And they said, yeah, sure. And I said, this is on the same cover. And they said, yeah. And then I asked, what cover is this book for? And this is the best part. They said, Star-Lord.
Oh, that's a Marvel book.
No, not Star. No, is it
Starman?
Oh, Warlock.
Warlord.
Oh, Warlord, the guy with
The guy with
the eagle. Yeah, Travis Morgan, the guy with the
I'm terrible. But
I just draw.
Really? That's amazing.
dude, it's the best kid.
Like the basic idea for the Convergence thing, that as far as we know, is that it was going to take a lot of time to move the offices to Burbank, and all the editors are going in groups, and if we don't have the editors, we can't work. So the Convergence is a way to keep comic fans excited by doing something crazy, but it's all outside people, basically. I mean, mostly.
Yeah, that's the technical part.
Yeah, I think it's also got something to do with you know, wanting to honor many different timelines and storylines that have been dropped, but still had kind of a fan engine to them. So it's sort of like what are they calling it? Pre-Flashpoint or right? You know,
that's what it feels
so it's basically when you're at the helm of such a huge ship with multiverse and multiple timelines and multiple events, they just thought, let's just take the time to do something really awesome, but honor the past, like honor some of the stuff that has been bugging everybody, like what happened to that character and what happened. So they've turned it into, it's pretty secretive to us. I don't know anything about it other than, you know, I was too busy to play in the sandbox, you know.
Back there?
Got it? Yeah, you with the pink hand wrist.
I don't know if, like, if you're in the opposite, is anything to do with the Justice Society? Like, are they getting a convergence book or whatever?
Yeah, I think they're in convergence. Yeah.
I'm not sure. With almost every pre-52 DC character in all universes are in these books.
Yeah.
Because society, man.
Yeah.
The yellow.
Kid Flash.
Yeah, Kid Flash.
How is it that you cope with like making different universes and different timelines without ruining the timeline that you're in with this Earth and like a ton of other Earths? And does the pre-52 universe still exist?
Well, that's the I think that's pretty much what convergence is, isn't it? The pre-52 universe. It's kind of, I think it's in a way it's sort of appeasing the people who did not like the fact that everything got rebooted with the new 52.
And you also get like the greatest hits out of it too.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
here's
Exactly.
all the best iterations of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the idea of the new 52 was to be like, hey, comics accessible, and they don't want the sort of thing where does that world still exist? And of course, immediately upon starting comics, people start going, and this guy from some other universe. And, oh, it's so complex. But yeah, so I think
And also in general, like multiple universe stories are fun, but you just have to have a reason for there to be a good story. So it's kind of like juggling. Like you think, well, if this timeline exists, then that one can't. But you just have to. You're juggling a lot of balls, really. And it's so that you can tell lots of good stories and you can have lots of fun, and nobody really wants to stop and think of if any of it makes sense, because then basically we know it doesn't. So
it's kind of like Looper, you know, if you really think about it, it'll make your head hurt.
Kind of.
So if you enjoy the story, you kind of just have to take it for what it is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So from a creative perspective, so all of you are obviously creative, artistically or writing. When did you guys, anybody can answer this question, did you think that you want to go into comics, or did you fall into that just by happenstance?
I think it's really hard to fall into comics.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to. Yeah, you kind of have to make it. I mean, for me personally, yeah, I wanted since when I was young to get into comics. Books. I've had a back and forth relationship with comics. I went into comics about 15 years ago, and then I was working for about 4 years, and then I left for about 7 I got into advertising, and then came back into comics about 5 years ago. So, you know, what comics. The reason reason I love drawing comics is simply because it's one of the few places after working for the last 15 years where creatively you do have a lot of control. There's not a lot of chefs in the kitchen per se, like in a creative professional industry. You know, when you're dealing with say advertising or film or whatever, there's a lot of people putting input. I mean, when you're doing a comic book, even doing, you know, for the big 2 companies, you know, you still only have maybe two other people who are going to put input into what you're doing, if there's any, you know. A lot of times they give you full reign to do whatever you want. So creatively, it's very open, and it's very sort of, you have a lot of creative freedom. And for me, it's one of the few places left, I think, professionally you can do that. I mean, you can always do it for yourself, but to get paid to do it, yeah.
You're actually independent contractors, right?
Yeah, we're all free.
For us, yeah, we're all free. Yeah, there's no salary, guys. There's no bullpens anymore, I don't think.
No staff jobs in comics anymore.
Yeah. Right. Should we take that guy back there?
Yeah.
You said when you were younger you were into comics, and it was like a back and
Well, it was. Sorry, go ahead.
For
Yeah.
somebody that's never really gotten into comics before, like, what's a good place to start?
Oh, where's a good place to start? Well, you know, I think it depends on what kind of comics you're into.
You mean you don't read comics?
No, but I know a lot of people that don't. It makes me sad.
That don't? It depends on what, I mean, you know, there's so many, comic books are so vast now. I mean, between, you know, say, typical mainstream superhero books, or you know, you have independent books, you have European titles, you have Japanese titles. I mean, it's just, there's so many different, where, you know, it all depends on the subject matter, I think, that the person's into.
And I think just tell your friend to wander a bookstore. And, I mean, I got into comics through Love and Rockets and Walt Simonson's Thor, and, you know, I mean, I just sort of wandered a comic book shop and went, that looks cool, and that looks cool. You just tell them to just go pick up a comic, read the first page, and if it speaks to them.
You know what seems to work though, just universally, it's not a DC comic, but you can just hand anybody Saga, and they all crap their pants. So just give them Saga, and it seems to work.
Go ahead.
How do you guys feel about the interpretation of Batman in video games?
Batman in video games?
Yeah.
I don't play video games, so I don't know.
I do. I mean, I think the Arkham games, the Batman Origins, Batman Arkham Origins, those games are, I think they're pretty awesome, actually. I mean, you know, I think with the way they handle him, I mean, I think it's pretty true. I think the way they're imagining the sort of environments are pretty awesome too.
Also, when you guys like, when they sit down and tell you like, oh, you're gonna be writing a storyline for this character, do you try to find out as much about this character, like, you know, with the multiverses, like, or do you just go, whatever, I'm just gonna write a story, whatever.
Well, I think that's not really.
Well, I mean, I do. I think it's funny that my job of research is going to the comic store, buying a bunch of back issues, and going to a coffee shop and reading for 6 hours.
You can't write a story about a character that you don't know.
Yeah, you have to get to know.
So you have to do the research.
And you can't get like over involved, like because you'll get lost in the nuances. But you have to really understand what it is. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Iron Fist.
Have, like, any of you ever like picked up like an Elseworlds comic from a few years ago and decided, like Red Sun or something, and decided I want to do something with this, build on this or something? Have you ever?
I think they're doing that.
Yeah, I think Convergence is your title, man. I think that's the
Yeah.
This guy. Can the panel describe a normal day at DC Comics?
A normal day at DC? Well, I don't think any of us actually were in DC.
Well, we were there 2 weeks ago. We can tell you what we saw.
We are independent, but we can tell you about the offices. I mean, we go into the offices periodically, but they're...
Well, first you walk to the security thing.
Because nobody actually works in...
Oh, well, tell them about the lobby has a phone booth that has Clark Kent.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
You know, you sit there at the Daily Planet banner and you sit next to Clark Kent.
When we call the office, Clark hands the phone over to Dan.
Yeah.
And he says, you know, this is what you're going to do. And Dan's like, oh, okay.
Great impressions, just like that. But from what I've ever been in there, it's really quiet, and all the editors are sweating and trying to get books out.
Yes.
And it's like, you could drop a pin in there, so quiet.
Right, you're talking about the New York office. I've never been to the West Coast office.
Actually, the LA office is really nice.
Yeah. The New York office
I've
is
never been.
Dude, they're pretty quiet, to be honest, because there's not a lot. It's all editorial, and it's all... As artists and writers, we all work from home, or we work from our studios, or we work from wherever, you know. So there's no sort of, like I said, in the sense of a Marvel bullpen, you know. It's all independent.
Yeah,
But they do have awesome swag. They have like Diane Johnson's New York office, which she's never in. She's like the head of DC, but she's never in New York. She has like the best toys. So if you do a DC All Access interview, you get to sit in that room, and then if you have a meeting with Dan DiDio, sometimes he gives you a cool toy.
Well, there's this room in both offices, New York and LA, where it's all of their cool stuff. Right? It's a secret room, and then sometimes
I've never seen the secret room.
Hey, they never brought me in the secret room.
They let you in and they say you can take whatever you want.
Busted, busted.
Speaking about the move from New York to LA,
By when will you guys be finished moving?
I think they move in April.
They'll be finished
April?
in June, or by June 1st they have to be finished, I think. As we understand it, but again, yeah, anything happens.
Everyone's like moving in at different times.
Go ahead.
Okay. You know, as an artist myself, as a musician, you know, not everything that you do is going to be golden. You're going to release like a mistake. What do you feel like each of you release a mistake? Like, oh my God, what have we done? You know, like.
What kind of mistakes have we made?
You know, maybe
have you ever floated a turd? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Speaking for myself, yeah. I mean, this is a job, so at the same time, you're lucky enough to be doing something you love to do. But you know, and for me, I'm very critical. I think most artists are critical of their own work, writers as well. So, but you are working on a deadline, and time is kind of like, you know, it's constantly beating you in the back of the head. So, you know, you can only do what you can in the amount of time you're allotted. And so if that means sometimes you have to put something out you don't particularly like, then you got to put something out you don't like, and hopefully you get, you know, the next one is going to be better than that one, you know. And so,
like I work in a studio with a bunch of other artists, and when my book comes out, I never look. I just don't, because all I'm going to see are the mistakes. And I see some of my studio mates, they do look at their stuff and they become crippled by it. You know, all they see are the mistakes, or sometimes they redo a page 5 times, you know, and that's not conducive for this to be a job, right? You have to have the ability to say, this is done, I'm going to learn from the mistake that I made on that page, and I'll try to fix it.
yeah, let it go.
That's the thing, you have to let it go.
And I think it's funny, like, the only stuff of mine that I like now is 5 years old or older.
Yeah.
Because you forget.
That's true.
You forget the mistakes. You're like, you know, you look at it now, you're like, that was awesome.
You do the whole, like, you know, I remember I was rearranging my shelf, and I'm like, hey, you know, I was too hard on myself. This isn't but stuff that's like within like a 6-month period, I think we'll just hate it.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yep, you lady.
You guys can fight for it.
What was your first impression when you were told to write Grayson?
Well, so DC called me and said, Katie Keewer was editor, and said, Nightwing got killed in Forever Evil, but they want to turn him into a spy. You want to write it? I was like, you're insane. We're going to hate that. But I didn't have any ideas for it, but I really like Katie. So I started thinking about it, but then I thought the only way to make it work was if it was about how Dick Grayson's the nicest dude on Earth, and now he's got to be a shady crook kind of guy, right? So it had to be about that. But the other thing Katie and I talked about is it had to be all about him taking his shirt off, because that's what the ladies like. So it had to be mysterious and sexy, and that was like the only 2 rules we knew it had to be. Yeah.
Go ahead. Adding on to that, I know you worked on Nightwings for a bit.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Tim's take on?
No, I actually, I can't lie. I haven't read much of Grayson, but
he looks like
that
guy.
Yeah,
he's dressed.
Yeah, yeah. The artwork looks great. I've seen that. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the artwork looks amazing, and I know the gist of what Tim is doing. And I think it's. I mean, the thing with comics is you know, they're always looking to change things, and you know, I can see why they went in that direction with Nightwing. I mean, I've always loved Nightwing and Dick Grayson as a character, you know, and but I can see based on, you know, where the storylines were going, it was kind of like he needed a change, and you know, I can see how it's working. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. I think
and if you haven't seen it, this dude is totally dressed as Grayson, and it looks really cool. So just
stand up.
Stand up.
It'll translate really well to TV.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And this is just off the top of my head. So like, is that coming to the TV projects as well now? I've heard. I heard something about that.
I think there's a Titans TV show, but I'm not exactly sure how that works.
As far as composition, I mean, this is for you guys. I'm not graphic design later. As far as composition, how do you guys try to figure it out so it's flowing between one page and another? Because you know what I'm saying? You're saying
how do we lay out our pages so that, you know, that in relation to each other?
Yeah.
Well, what I normally do, you know, when I get a script is, you know, I'll go through read through the script once or twice, usually usually at least twice. And then start doing thumbnails. You know, you do like a little breakdown, little thumbnails, and then from the thumbnails, you know, then they should translate into larger roughs. You know, more sort of half-size roughs. And in the course of that, and a lot of times, you know, it could be something going on with the page. With my pages, I like to bring in a lot of like design elements into my pages. I'm working on Batwoman. I learned a lot. It was a real learning experience for me. And you know, it's great when you're I love being challenged, and I love constantly learning and growing artistically. So working with J.H. Williams, who's a very design-oriented guy, and he was writing, and I came on as the artist, and so I was, learning from him and learning his sort of design sensibilities and interpreting a page differently than what I previously thought of, you know, when I would look at a layout or I would sit down and do my layouts. So I would work, I guess what I'm getting at, using those sort of sensibilities, building up a sort of design, like elements. I use different elements from the story, like incorporate them into the designs of the pages. And I don't worry so much, I guess, get back to your question, like whether the pages correspond to each other or whether I'm duplicating a layout or whatever, because what goes on inside of the panels a lot of times will, even if you're using the same layout, it's not gonna look exactly the same. You know, I mean, Francis can probably talk about it.
I just go, even though I'll do crazy panels, I go for readability, right? Everything will, in my books, everything will always read left to right. If there's panels like splattered all over the page, it's meant to be looked at as either peripherally, as you're looking at one panel, or they're meant to be moments in time, you know? So, in instances where there are non-traditional layouts, that's kind of what I have in mind. And I tend to lay out the whole book on a giant sheet, because I do my layouts digitally. So when I'm doing the layouts, I see the entire 22 pages. So from there, I'm able to figure out the rhythm of the story and where things need to get more tense, where the stories need to breathe. You know, like sometimes I'll do a page with, you know, 20 panels and it's all like fighting, but then I'll have a double page spread where all it is Batman's like this small and it's all sky and the water, because it's a moment for you to catch your breath as a reader. And when you, again, you know, doing layouts like that allows me to look at the overall story and look at the pacing and the feel and the rhythm of the story. I think that's what I think a lot about is the rhythm. You know, it feels like a drum beat. And at this point, it's like, oh, this is where the bass comes in. Okay, this is where the snare comes in. Oh, okay, now bring out the cymbals. You know. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
And as far as type, like, what is it that you guys use? What kind of inspiration do you guys use for type?
For lettering?
Yeah, for lettering.
We don't have any letters in this thing.
Yeah. I don't do much. I mean, sometimes I'll incorporate a sound effect in the background and stuff like that, but that's...
I used to do it more, but then I'm just kind of like, you know, this is also someone else's job.
Yeah. Well, plus letterers, I mean, they really are good at it, yeah. And they know, I'm always amazed, like, just changing the, you know, font a little bit of the spacing changes the readability, and that's some stuff that their eye is more trained for than mine, I think.
I think also one of the awesome things about letters is I think that they design the title with some kind of mood to fit the story. And then if it's an arc, they'll use that design over and over. You know, they are really good at the job. I don't know, it's now all computers, right?
Now it's, it's digital.
But it's still, there's still a lot of art in it.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a design sense to it. Him the hat.
What do you guys think about the DC cinematic universe and how it's going to influence or draw influence from what you guys do in comics? You know, Justice League, you know, stuff like that. Are they going to be able to do the same kind of success that the M word, Marvel, has done in their cinema?
Well, I think that's their hope. I mean, I think that's Warner Brothers' hope, is that those are going to be they're going to have just as successful tie-in with the movies as Marvel has. I mean, I think now it seems there might be a back and forth. I mean, the Nolan films, I think, as far as Batman films go, I mean, those were obviously very influential, I think. But I think it's, I mean, I don't know that I draw anything out of it.
I think what's interesting about the films is sometimes you're like, oh yeah, that's an interesting take, and then you realize, oh, you're sometimes reminded of the books that they were inspired by. So it ends up bringing you back to the books, you know. And ultimately, when we do our books, at no point in any of the meetings do we say, hey, did you see this take on Batman or whatever? We should do that. That almost always never happens. You know, everything is about the book, what we can do to make it better, and what we're doing with it now.
I actually think that Gotham is capturing Gotham's pretty well. You know, and I think that the idea of doing, you know, going back and doing the detectives and the cop beat and slowly building to the more superhero aspects is, I think it was smart of them, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what was interesting about that is it reminded people that there was this book called GCPD, you know, which a lot of people really like.
Yeah. That was a great book.
It's great because in books like that, they get a second life, you know, because at the time it was very topical when things were getting more street level, and then, you know, as things started becoming more spectacular, it's kind of cool for it to come back like that.
Well, Iron Fist has his hand up constantly. Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead, you had your hand up for a long time. Yeah. This one? Okay, in front of him, yeah.
Yeah, go for it. I have 2 questions, is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You know now the new 52 issues are already out and everything. I want to know what's your favorite superheroes and what's your favorite storylines in the new 52 issues. And my second question is, in any of the future adaptations of the show, comic books turned into shows or movies, what would you think would be best to play those specific characters?
Wow. The new 52. I don't.
You're asking which characters we like in the new 52?
New characters and storylines.
And storylines.
Yeah, anything like.
I thought the Batman and Robin run with Pete Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, that was the best. You know, the relationship that Damian had with Bruce and Alfred, to me that was brilliant. I love that movie. And I like Alfred.
I think it's probably both Batman stuff, but Batman Incorporated by Grant and Chris Burnham I really liked, and then Court of the Owls I think is like a perfect, you know, that's like a perfect Batman story, and it works so well as a reintroduction. It was like a requel, sort of, like it was sort of a sequel, but it was a remake also.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, Snyder's Batman. I mean, I mean, I working with Scott on Gates of Gotham, and the way he sort of brought that into, you know, sort of set that up to be the sort of introduction to the new Batman series. I enjoyed reading that quite a lot. You know, Greg Capullo's artwork's amazing. Go ahead. Yeah.
My question's for Anne. As a woman in the comic book industry, what is it like day to day, and how has the industry changed from when you started to now?
Well, I think when I first started in the industry, there were not many girls. And everybody treated us beautifully because they were like, oh boy, there's a girl around, you know? I mean, it was great, you know? Everybody was really like fatherly, and, you know, there was like Walt Simonson, Louise Simonson, and Archie, I don't know, Denny O'Neil. Everybody kind of just was really sweet and wonderful. And it was only when I came back to the business later, I was kind of like, oh, there's some tension here, you know? But I mean, there's so many girls in the industry now. I realized that at Emerald City Con, I went to Emerald City, Seattle last year, there were so many girls. And it was just mother-daughter teams would come up and want to talk about some story I'd written. And, you know, it was like, I think things are, I mean, I don't know what it's like for a young girl entering the industry now, but people have always treated me with respect, and it's really great to see all the girls in the audience, in this audience.
What do you feel is DC's greatest accomplishment? It's a question for anyone.
Wow.
Batman?
Or Superman, I mean that's, or Wonder Woman, I guess, I don't know.
Hiring the 4 of us?
Yeah, there you go.
Flash.
Is there like a piece of the cinematic universe that is based off of your work? Or if not, which one of the cinematic, cinematic things is more like your works?
I think what I've heard that with the Gotham series, they use some of the Gates of Gotham stuff for the TV show. I don't know if that was true, that they used the production design referenced a lot of that, but that's the closest thing I can say.
I kind of geeked out when I saw the Jitters coffee logo thing at the coffee shop. Because when I drew that when I was working on The Flash with Jeff Johns, it was just a throwaway thing, and then to see it on TV, I'm like,
that's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, girl next to Grayson.
How do you guys come up with designs for your characters? Like, what's your inspiration?
Oh wow, for me, like everything. I mean, it's kind of a broad answer, but you know, for me, when I'm designing a character, especially when it's a fantastic sort of future, sort of fantastical sort of character or whatever, I always try to draw from something that's real anyway. So, you know, like different, say, Native American costuming, or you know, or regional costuming of different places that you know I can pull from, you know, to help incorporate into a design. You know, or films that I enjoy, or you know, if there's somebody who comes from in dealing with a specific character, I could probably get more specific on that. But there's, you know, it comes from all sorts of different places, I think.
I always go with the has to look good on paper. That's the only requirement.
Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, okay.
Let's just get something.
I was just going to ask, what do you think would be your favorite comic book to work on? Do you think there's like a character that may be like underused in DC comic that you would like to probably bring the spotlight more? Any characters?
We should do that. Since you drew Kamandi, I mean, you should probably do a Kamandi thing.
Yeah, I'll say Kamandi.
I totally want to do the Creeper someday. I love that character, but he looks so cool. But he's like superhero Joker. How's that not cool?
With a boa. And all the way in the back.
I was just curious. You guys said that.
Got it. Why don't you and then the other guy behind you?
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
You guys said you pretty much have a little bit of creativity, smaller teams. Is there any point in time that anyone from marketing from DC goes, can we take it in this direction or maybe this direction?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, like, we went to a Bat Summit, and that was certainly like, they said, hey, just so you know, this is the week that the movie comes out, so keep that in mind for marketing purposes. And I mean, it's still business.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when I was working on Flash, we worked with the marketing department very closely, and around that time, every bit of science that we dropped on it, they were able to put us in science websites. You know, so he was able to extrapolate from the story and sort of sell the books in different non-traditional markets. And I mean, and of course, there's also things like, hey, you know, could you have the robes come sooner than your plans because it will sell more. You know? So there's things like that, right? So of course, like, it would be extremely naive for us to think that the sales department don't have an influence on how things are. It's not a huge influence. We tell a story that we want to tell, but there's definitely, this is a business, you know, and that aspect definitely comes into play every now and then.
No, well, the other guy in the back. Yeah, go ahead.
You guys started out in your careers. You guys took any inspiration from any older artists or writers?
Oh yeah.
It's impossible not to.
Yeah,
I think,
I mean, yeah, it's kind of, I think all this draw from some point, you know, coming from some place.
Yeah, for sure. There must be a cosplay contest going on or something, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, just like you, when you read books, the books that excite you, it's the same for us. You know, those books that we read influences us, or at least excites us to actually draw and write and do these things. And there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's a broad question. Sorry, go ahead.
If I were to say really quick, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, a lot of those image guys. That's just, it's very indicative of the time that I was growing up.
We're that age. We're the Image age. Somebody was like Rick Larson. Yeah, the old stuff.
Yeah, right. Michael Golden. I love Michael Golden, Jason Pearson, and Jason Pearson was a fan of Michael Golden, so I mean, I grew up reading those guys, so yeah, such a big influences. Iron Fist has had his hand up there.
I swear this is the last one. Until the next one. So when the New 52 was like starting out, like when like everyone was writing the number ones, what was like the thought process behind making the big decisions such as, I know you guys probably weren't part of this decision, but just to give an example, like with the, like determining the lineup of the Teen Titans in the New 52, or like how the new Batman, the Bat family, Damian Wayne's already Robin, but Barbara Gordon's still Batgirl, or stuff, something like that. What was like the thought process going into that?
I think it was scrying with chicken livers, I believe is how they
I think they, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't privy to any of that stuff, but I think they were trying to.
Yeah, well, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
It's a very different process for every creative team, right? So there's, this in a similar way as the sales department, editorial, and other creative team, a lot of those decisions come from that. Things like when we started The Flash, did Crisis happen? At that point in time, we didn't know the answer. Did Barry's parents die? Like these were things that we all discussed openly. And same thing with the Rogues. It's different for every team, and every book had a different goal, right? I mean, we had one goal for the whole line, which is to show these characters in a new way. But then every book, it's different for all of them. So decisions don't come from one place.
I think there was also a sense of the characters were loaded with so much history. The idea was, let's make them a little bit younger in terms of like their spirit. So it was kind of like, well, yeah, Green Arrow has 70 years of stories and he's been married and divorced and all this stuff, but write him with all that like in his bones. Like it was weird. It was like, but he's young. So it was a weird balancing act because you had to respect the bones, like the original DNA. I started thinking of it as DNA, like his DNA, what he's been through, even though now he's only 20. Or in the same with Catwoman, So they wanted us to erase, but at the same time respect history, if that makes any sense.
So, you guys talked about deadlines and all that stuff. So, what are typical deadlines? Comics come out on Wednesday, so what's the...
It's always, they needed it yesterday, so that's usually the typical.
Well, you figure you have to make one a month. You have to make one a month, or if you're doing two or three, sometimes a month.
Yeah, for drawing a book, I mean, ideally, you'd like to get at least 5 weeks on that. Sometimes it's less. Sometimes you're lucky enough to maybe get a little more, but it's pretty tight, deadline every month. And then, if you lay down one, then that eats into your next month.
So comics come out on Wednesdays. When do they go to print Wednesday's comic?
Oh, they would go to. I have to do this for Image all the time, so I can give you the basics on this one. So they come out on that Wednesday. They went to press 2 weeks before that.
Okay.
Okay? Right. Which means the letters and all that stuff had to be turned in by that date, and then the pencils, it usually takes like 3 months roughly, with people doing different jobs to get from, you're basically working about 3 to 4 months ahead, roughly. And then, ideally more than that, but usually not. So.
Wow.
When do you get paid?
Not
When
enough.
do you get paid?
Well, it's paid by a raise.
When do you get paid?
Oh, when you pay.
Oh, when?
You get paid
Every 2 weeks, typically. It's
30 days from, usually, it's like roughly 2 weeks from when you turn in your voucher.
The 1st and the 15th, they changed it now, so I think it's the 1st and the 15th.
And then you get paid for the page, the rate.
Right.
And then like twice or 3 times a year, you get, well, how many is the royalties?
Royalties, twice a year?
Twice a year.
No, it's quarterly.
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 You get accruals
the
of,
digital,
yeah.
the digital.
We just got that January, we're getting April, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Something
So you get accruals of, if your book sells more than 40,000, you get a percentage. If it sells well in trades, you get a percentage.
And overseas sales.
Overseas sales, digital sales.
Digital sales, yeah.
So you start to make, like you get your rate, and then you hopefully, if you're on a successful book, you can make a nice little chunk of change from that.
Yeah, sometimes it's a nice little surprise, you know, every 3 months, depending on what you've been working on. Is it lucky enough to have something like selling?
So you gotta be really careful with your contract, to read through it. I mean, is it really part of the business to screw you on writing?
No.
I
mean, they kind of, that was the 60s. That was let's bone everybody years. And then they're pretty good. I mean,
they're all standardized for the most part. I mean, I can always speak for that. I mean, it's all mostly standardized contracts. I mean, Marvel, DC, you know, Valiant. I think most of the contracts are pretty similar nowadays. The days of getting sort of like screwed out of a lot of stuff. I mean, granted, you know, you do hear horror stories about people having to like fight for this and that, but yeah, it's pretty standardized.